Hello, my friends. Hello, hello, hello. Hopefully things are starting up here. Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, in this scenario, my camera's way over there. So I just have it focused in on D.O.G. So, yeah, I'm going to be out of focus for all of this because I am using a manual lens. Let me go ahead and boot up the live stream on my computer here so that I can see your comments coming in. And just to warn you, our internet has been dicey at best for the past couple nights. And so it wouldn't surprise me at all if we ended up losing some connections and things like that. So you have been warned. Like right now, I'm having a hard time just trying to keep this connected. This is weird and unfortunate. But let me see if I can get this to work. Legacy Art Studio. My name is Tim Lee, by the way. For those of you who don't know me, I have a million different YouTube channels, and I would much rather just make content than edit content. I'd much rather just do everything live, have a good time with you guys, and yeah. So that's happening. Let me see if we get audio here. That is beautiful. All right, cool. So let me go ahead and mute and pause this. That way I'm not wasting bandwidth. Turn on the live chat so I can see your comments coming in. So D.O.G, D.O.G. This wonderful little critter has been with me since 2023, I believe. Painted him up based off a boxer I found on Instagram and Dwight D. Eisenhower's presidential picture, presidential painting. Now, last night I did a quick little live stream where I removed all the varnish. It is definitely devarnished, that's for sure. And now it's time to go in and I want to separate the dog off the background just a little bit more. Not by much, just a little bit. It would be my desire. Trying to get my lighting a little better so I can see what I'm doing here. I actually have my studio very dark right now because I'm worried about cast shadows on the painting that I'm not going to be able to control. So might not hurt to also tilt this towards me a little bit and make it more. Where's those knobs on this thing? Where's the knobs? Oh, down here at the bottom. Wow. It's been a minute since I've worked on a large scale painting. I've been doing smaller stuff. That would be the ceiling. That's fun. So I need to make an adjustment here. Drop this down a touch. Now hopefully I can tilt this up a little bit more. So hopefully, oh, that's better, I think. I hope. We're going to give that a shot. There we go. I can adjust my camera a little bit, but I'll start up here anyway because this is eyeline with me. I remember looking at the Dwight D. Eisenhower presidential portrait and really liking how dark everything was. And then I took this piece of artwork to my studio in downtown and was highly impressed with, and I think it's this exact same paint on the walls. I was highly impressed with how much this painting just disappeared into the wall. And to the few people that came upstairs to my office and were talking with me about it, they were making it very clear that it basically dissolved into the wall. And so I'm really liking this color here, which I can barely see in front of me. On the camera, it looks different. This right here is a nice lighter blue. Now, I don't want to match this. I wanted to go more gray tone. So the theory is I'm going to mix up some white, some black, some blue, and I'm going to try to make this in such a way where hopefully I can fix some of this stupidity that is in front of me. So let me start with some ultramarine, French ultramarine blue as one of my colors onto my palette down below that you can't see. I'm sorry. We'll also toss some raw umber on here to hopefully neutralize some of these colors. This is from Blick. Okay. And I'm going to be using a little bit of... I want this to dry fairly quickly, so we're going to be using some Liquid Original to help balance this as quickly as possible. Liquid ages so poorly and is incredibly toxic, so please be careful with Liquid if you end up using it. It's incredibly... Whoa! I rest my case. It is dripping down my palette right now. It's incredibly toxic, so just be warned. Use it wisely, use it sparingly, and especially enjoy using it because it works really, really well. It dries stuff up super fast. He's giving a warning. Wait a minute. Where did he go with that? Left field. Okay, so what other colors do I need to put on my palette here to make this happen? And I'm trying to not use cheap paints here. So I like using Winsor Newton colors. I don't think I'm going to need much yellow for this, but I'll put a little on the palette anyway. There we go. Just a touch, just in case. I like it because I can buy the big tubes. I like having the big tubes to work with. If you're enjoying seeing little content from me here and there, I really need a favor, and it's a stupid one. Hit the like button. Here's why. I have decided that my life has been highly invested in some other projects that need my full attention. And it breaks my heart because I love being here on YouTube. I love creating content on YouTube. Problem is, creating content on YouTube requires a lot of editing time. Something I do not have anymore. There needs to be other places where I put my focus. But I just absolutely love being here. I absolutely love just creating stuff. And even if that means just turning on the camera and running with it, I love it. And I don't want to miss it. So I would much rather just live stream everything and then hopefully people get something out of it. I'm finding videos in the past that I live streamed that people are still thanking me for, and I'm going, well, I want to work on big scale production stuff, and not big scale. I mean, I do production stuff on a daily basis now, but stuff like nicely edited videos, nicely edited content. My business needs me to do that more than my little personal YouTube channels. So that's why I'm doing live streams these days for the past few days. And if I can get some encouragement from you guys, you're enjoying the fact that I'm trying to do this, you hit that like button and you share with me that you appreciate that, that would be a very driving force. I need that encouragement, and I appreciate having you guys here to offer that encouragement. So don't be afraid. I'm literally begging for it. All right, so I got a whole bunch of colors that have nothing to do with what I'm trying to accomplish here in front of me. So now we're going to try it. Let's get this show on the road, shall we? I'm going to use a fairly big brush to dab things in, get a good fit. What is this one? It's so old, it's unmarked. I know it's definitely a Master's Touch brush, which would be from Hobby Lobby. And I've taken my watches off. We're good to go there. I got some liquid here. So let's start trying to mix up the color that I would like to accomplish. So I'm doing some... What color is this? And it sounds weird, but I'm using some Naples Yellow Hue with some ultramarine blue just to start. And then we're going to go with some raw umber. And I can barely see. I used to have my my colors right here. I'd mix everything right here and then go onto my palette here. Unfortunately, I needed that mount for my laptop in the other side of the studio, so I haven't been able to Um, I'm mixing with a lot of light here that I hate. Not much I can do about it. Right, I feel like this is going to be a little too bright. Yeah, it's way too bright. I need to go a bit darker, so we're going to do touch more blue, touch more raw umber, touch more liquid, because I really want to make sure this dries up fast. And try it again. All right, we're a shade darker. I don't mind that shade so much. I'm going to go just a touch darker. Bit more blue, bit more raw umber. Basically trying to use the raw umber. Yeah. The raw umber is to neutralize the saturation in the blue as much as possible. And having the yellow hue is hopefully going to assist with getting rid of just a little bit of that it being too warm. Too cold. I want just the smallest bit of warmth. There is absolutely no going back now. That's for sure no going back now. Whether I like it or not, this is happening. So let me go ahead and cancel out my parsec because I see it's dropping frames. So hopefully that's going to get us a little bit more of a connection back, and I will just keep watching via the live stream, which will tell me how bad our internet is over time. Okay. There we go. Let me move this up to my other screen here. Yeah, I can already tell we're dropping internet connection. I need to find a better internet connection situation from my desktop, because this is a pretty serious frustration for me that I've been dealing with a lot recently. Something I shouldn't have to deal with, but all right. And I usually really like utilizing my screen as a bit of a reference for what I'm doing. So the fact that I can't really see what I'm doing right now through my computer is a little bit unfortunate, because the video is delaying so severely. But we'll just keep going with this for now. Okay. So liquid for me serves two major purposes. One, it's really helping to make the paint dry quicker. That's mainly the main reason why I use liquid, is I want the paint to dry at least to a tack by the next day, if I can have my choice. But something I continue to forget about that really is beautiful with liquid, and I'm also trying the gel solvent. I have some of that laying around, and I haven't used it because I just have so little of it, but I'm trying it more recently with some of my small pieces. Is it actually just extends the paint. It thins it, but it extends it, where I can actually push it further into the canvas. I can make the paint last longer, where it stays in the brush longer, gets into the bristles longer, and so it just makes it a little easier to stretch it out. And it also adds a glow. I think that'd be a good way to put it. It adds a gloss to the paint. Some people wouldn't want that. I come from a lack of schooling in this art form, all self-taught. And so because of that self-taught mentality, I just kind of go with what feels good. And I think that's a good thing. Oh, that wasn't a happy accident. I kind of like this darker gray that I'm seeing here. So I'm going to apply that further out, and we'll blend back into that lighter. That's because I had to mix fresh color here, and I'm kind of going off of feel more than I am off of sight. So it's definitely going to fairly quickly change on me. doing some swirls and things, trying to make some of this blend into it, get a nice gradient. For those of you who might be asking the question, why am I not doing this in acrylic if I want it to dry faster? Which I kind of doubt many of you are asking that question, but I'm going to answer it as if anyway. Acrylic is actually a rather difficult medium. You got to clean your brushes directly after, or else it's just going to cake up your brushes like severely. Yes, it's nice that your water is your solvent, which is definitely far less toxic. So I fully support artists who choose to go that route, and I know a lot of master artists who have chosen to swap to acrylic for the purpose of their health. I want to see as many artists remain in our industry, and a lot of these guys are getting lead cancer, like cancer due to lead, consumption, because they've been breathing lead from old paints and things like that, because maybe they've been in the industry for many, many years. Maybe their skin's getting beaten up. There's a lot of reasons why. And so the reality with acrylics is they mix so poorly. Blending acrylics is dang near impossible unless you are ready to go and you're not even blending. You are doing acrylic washes, much like you do watercolor washes. I know I'm off the camera down here on the bottom. I'll be back in the camera here in a second. Let me just get this bottom here and get that out of the way. So really what you're doing is these really buzzy looking washes versus being able to apply two colors on the canvas and then go, that's not working right. Let's just take these two and blend them together. There's some really amazing artists who are incredibly good with acrylics, and they'll have two brushes with them in the same hand at all times, and they'll go like this, and then they'll switch and try to blend, and then switch, and then blend, and it really is just a completely different style. And some people do such a marvelous job at it. The thing that I am sad about, that I personally have noticed, is how devalued acrylic is versus oils. People will spend more money on oils. That's pretty obvious because it's a very traditional medium. Then the second side of that topic is and I'll put it on myself, but I've heard it from other people. I'm not the only one who has said this. The biggest compliment that I have given to an acrylic artist is how much their acrylics look like oils. And I am bummed by that. And not even trying to put these on the same length at all. But it wouldn't be a compliment for me to say, wow, that painting looks so good. It looks like it's done by AI. And I'm not trying to put them on the same level. Acrylic artists are really incredible. They're very gifted. It is a true art form to be able to paint in acrylic. That I am not even coming close to putting that on the same level in any way, shape, or form. But the reality is, a compliment of that nature is not a compliment in the slightest in what these individuals deserve for the skill set that they carry. And the devaluing of those paintings, because they are of a different medium that, in my opinion, will probably still last just as long without fail, possibly longer, and be more healthy for the creator of the painting. I really detest that the award that is given them by me and by others is, my gosh, this painting is so good. It looks like oils. And if you would see how much effort goes into doing these lovely paintings. I mean, for some artists, doing it needs to be a little lighter. They get out things like airbrushes to lay down their bases and then build off of that. And let me tell you, as a videographer, I spend so much of my time really trying to decide what lenses to use to blur my backgrounds, to make whatever's behind me in as blurry as possible. Like right now, I know I'm super blurry in comparison to my painting, and I like that because I want you to pay more attention to the painting than to me. It's a personal choice. And as an artist, we have to decide as well when we want people to pay more attention to certain elements on a painting. And so focusing our attention in on what's going to be blurred and what's not going to be blurred and what's going to be sharper is incredibly important. Problem being, acrylic doesn't give as much flexibility to blur backgrounds as an oil base does. On an oil base, I'm doing it right now. All I got to do is just move the paint around. It's still super wet. So I can very easily take whatever sharp object I'm painting right here and dull it to an extreme just by moving the paint around. But acrylic sets within seconds. Within literal seconds. So unless you spray some water down with maybe some, what neutralizers do I have? I have a couple different neutralizers that make it stay a little wet for a bit longer. You're going to have a lot of sharp edges and things. And acrylic has a look. Especially for newer painters who are in the world of acrylic, there's a very obvious look for acrylic. And it cheapens it. Now, professionals who have been doing it a while and know what they're doing, that look goes away. But that instant drying effect can be very, can deeply affect the final painting in a very sad way. So you really have to get in your 10,000 hours of painting before that dissipates. And you have to learn to work with the acrylics. The thing I like about oils, yes, you need your 10,000 hours in oils too. The thing I really like about it is it really lasts. And reaching some of those goals, some of those abilities, frankly, oils can hide mistakes if done right and if you understand the medium. And I think what really caught me off guard as a new oil painter is when people were telling me oils are so forgiving. And I'm like, they are not forgiving. But you got to understand what they mean when they say it's forgiving. Your paints on your canvas are still wet. They're moldable, but they're still wet. That means that I could easily come in here with a paper towel and I could mop up all of this. Yes, it would leave some staining and stuff behind, but I could clean up all of this and start over again immediately. That's what they mean when they say forgiving. Now, what I find forgiving with oils is how if I don't like something, if it's not blended enough or whatever, I can easily come in here. Whoa, okay, so I just made a pretty strong mistake on his shoulder. So if that was a watercolor, I just destroyed it. And I'm going to have to get some gouache or something else to go over it and fix it. I'm still painting. I know I made that mistake, but I'm still painting. And I'm not overly worried about it. Because what I can do here is once I get to a point where I feel like stopping, I'm just going to grab a paper towel and clean it. A little wipe down and it's done. Let's try it out. So we'll go like this. And I'm going to use a paper towel. That way I have a bit more control. I'm hoping that my audio is still recording. Yes, it is. Good. Okay. If you're watching and you like this, hit that like button for me. So I'm just going to make this paper towel really nice and tight. Short little bulb. I'm just going to come here. Now, remember, my character's 3 years dry. He hasn't had any paint on him. And there you go. I mean, totally just removed that little bit of paint with no issue. That's gone. Completely dry. Easy fix. Forgiving. Because the paint remains wet. And even with applying liquid to it, I'm very thankful to say that I am still not under the gun that I would be with acrylics. Because the amount of time that it took me to get back to the shoulder to do that repair, it would have been dried and sealed. And there's no pulling it off once you get to that point. So my hope here is that we are going to bring D.O.G into a little bit of light here. But then I intend to build darkness back around him again. That's the plan anyway. So I'm starting with a lot of lighter gray to fill in around him. Trying to put him in a little bit of a highlight in the middle where the light is backlighting him. And then as I go to the outsides, then I'm going to darken up that light. Now up here, right now, just like painting a house, I'm painting a very thin coat of paint. And so I can very clearly see the color underneath the canvas. Where over here it was a bit thicker, up here it's not. So I need to be a bit more careful. Let's see. Yeah, I knew that would be a little brighter and a little bit more blue, so that's not what I want to do. So I'm just going to blend that in as if I never did it. There we go. I mean, I'm literally testing my colors on my canvas. That's how much I'm willing to try, how trusting I am of my canvas. If I don't like it, I can easily blend it into what I was already doing and just make it dissolve. Or make it an element in the painting. I like the warmth, and I feel like I got that warmth over here on this side, so I'm going to roll with this just a little bit. The other thing is I have a very strong warm light on this side of him, so having a little bit more warmth in these grays I don't think is going to hurt me that much. In saying that, though, let's get some more blue in here to try to knock that down just slightly, a little bit more white, a little bit more liquid. There we go. Just gently pull some of that warmth out of there. And I'm having a little bit of a trouble seeing up here. That's why I'm standing up. My space that I'm working in has very low ceilings, especially right here. So I have to make some adjustments or consider moving my studio around. But right now, this studio is pretty set up for It's fairly optimal for what I've been doing on a daily basis. So I think this is just how it's going to be for now. Because painting is not a daily area of work for me. It's relaxing. I'm hoping it becomes a more daily effort. But I still gotta put in some more hours of work and get this to a point where it makes more financial sense that I do more paintings. And I'm trying. There's this documentary that I'm starting on called Hidden Legacies. And it's possibly a multi-part series. That would be the goal. Traveling around Montana and getting different stories of Montana and then possibly other states. I don't know. We'll see how it continues. We're kind of at the moment here where we just want to do this one project right and see where it leads us and then move on from there. But one of the goals is to paint the locations that I'm at. And painting those locations would allow me, obviously, a little bit of attention. It would be nice to be able to think that that would help my marketing for some of my paintings while also doing something benevolent. So we'll have to see. I have big dreams. Nothing wrong with having big dreams. Just having them as dreams, that annoys me. I want to be able to take that even further and run with it further and do it right. So that's what we're trying to do. I'm going to back this up here just a tiny bit. And hopefully then we can readjust. That way you can see more of this painting while I'm working on it. And if you're wondering about the screen next to me, no, there aren't any references on there. This is all out of my head. My original references were on Pinterest. So let's get this guy in focus. There we go. The original ones were on Pinterest, and I only took parts and pieces of each one. It would be my goal not to thieve another photographer or an artist of their work. So each one only has elements of every painting that I was looking at or every picture that I was looking at. A black cherry. It's very, very good. Okay. So far I like this. Having a hard time seeing into the darkness down here, so I'm going to put a light down here a bit more. It's going to put some more glare on the top, but it's going to help me make some decisions down here at the bottom. Because down here, I want things to be much darker. But I also need them to be controlled. So this has to be handled very carefully. So getting some more blue and raw umber. I'm going to have to get some more paint here soon. And really darkening this color up. Possibly down to, I don't know, it's still a little bit lighter than the original. And I'd like to not paint out my original signature if I can help it, but we'll see. So let's do a little bit of this. I do like to answer this question when I think about it, so I'll go ahead and answer it now. For those of you who are wondering how the caricature side of things is going for the business, I haven't had a gig in I think in like 2 months. And the last video that I did on caricatures was the last gig I had. We are in slow season. Winter is a very slow season. Now, I haven't overly tried to market myself in this season. I've been very thankful to have a lot on my plate. Not exactly in a financial sense. That's still a challenge, but in a have work to do, in being able to bless others and taking care of other businesses and doing some work for other folks and things, I've been pretty busy. So um, while I would like to have more caricature gigs, um, this naturally, and especially right now with the government the way it is, with our world the way it is, it reminds me a lot of the Depression back in 2008. Maybe you remember that. Um, we're kind of sitting in a place like that where money is not as free flowing as it used to be. And so, unless it's a wedding where people are ready to put a lot of money in it, or it's a big organization that is already sitting on its own coffers, not a lot of people are looking for caricature gigs. And that's okay. Um, if you're going to be in business, if you're going to do this as a business, your business needs to have multiple parts. And when one falls short, the other one needs to take over. And so right now, I'm highly focused, laser focused on really trying to pay more attention towards the video side of my business during the winter. And then during the summer or spring, then we go back to the caricature side, depending on what organizations choose to hire me or not. Like I think we did a gig in January out in Whitefish, Montana, and I made a video on that. Pretty spooky drive out there. Really beautiful caricature gig, though. Had a lot of fun with that one. And so I still assume that there might be some more caricature gigs waiting, Christmas season kind of stuff like that. We'll see. If there are, then I'll make videos on them. If not, then just keep an eye out, because I make constant videos, especially like on my trips when I get to travel to other locations, whether it's for art or for video. And recently I have a friend who's sat beside me and done a little bit of video work with me. So it would be lovely to have him shoot more B-roll and share with you guys a little bit more of what I'm doing behind the scenes and what we're trying to do with our documentary and things like that. So it's just, I like how this looks. This is looking good. It's a process, and it's not one that is financially stable. I'm very thankful to still be self-employed, but I'm not going to lie that every week goes by when I question if I should still be unemployed, not unemployed, but self-employed. Am I taking care of my wife well enough? Am I doing the things I need to do to take care of our home? So there's always a lot of questions behind the scenes that, if I do my job well, I don't mind sharing. I'm very open with you guys when we're in a difficult scenario or something like that. But there will definitely come times where I hope I just share the positives with you, because sometimes those negatives do need to stay behind closed doors, because it's self-fear that keeps you from moving forward often. Sometimes you need to make wiser decisions. Sometimes it's just your own fear. And one thing I do very boldly and loudly is I lean on what I think God is telling me to do. And that is dangerous. That's a dangerous thing. So, because if you do something and you assume that's God telling you to do it, and then it goes wrong, it might not have been what God was telling you to do, but you assumed. And I don't want to assume for the ultimate savior of the world, for what he had in store for me and for my wife and for our family. So this is something where you can't make mistakes. You can make mistakes, but those mistakes might mean that your financial stability is over. And you got to be careful who you become friends with, because when money gets into friendships and relationships, it's damaging. It is very damaging. So I would say that doing this career is the best thing I've done in my life, other than marrying my wife. And that's not just because it gets me more brownie points for saying that. I firmly believe that. The other thing, which in my opinion is even higher than the marriage with my wife, is understanding that there is an eternal God, and there's only one eternal God on this planet, and choosing to believe him and living as moral a lifestyle as I can is incredibly important. And then choosing to be self-employed, I take a lot of joy in that. I'm very thankful to be doing that. And I knew that would be too bright. So just kind of blend it in without pushing too much extra paint off there. And frankly, I could even put some more of that around these edges and make certain parts of this pop. Maybe back here. So I'll try to push a little harder with my brush to try and get a little bit more of that white paint out back here. But I've made a very dangerous statement that I will continue to live by as best I can. In the areas where my business succeeds, that will only be because, that was God's original plan for my business. I have put my business in God's hands. I have to make the decisions. I have to drive forward with what I believe he's telling me to do. I will be wrong. But the statement is very, very true that choosing to go that route, choosing to believe that way, means that when something goes wrong, I've messed up. When something goes right, that means hopefully that was part of God's plan. More importantly, God has used this business to grow me as a human, as an adult, as a person of power in business, in being in charge of other people, and things of that nature. And unfortunately, when you say if something good happens, that's because God is in control, sometimes he has to show that to people other than you by making your life pretty hard. Think about Job in the Bible. Job's lesson to others would not be in the Bible if he had not lived the very hellish life that God had him live for a season of his life. That's the other thing. Everything's a season. So I have to understand that when I say, hey, God, this is yours, use it to your glory, that might actually mean that he's going to put me through a couple ringers so that it makes the statement of what we're trying to accomplish here so much more powerful. Which means I'm going to have to deal with pain to reach the goal that he had in mind. And it needs to be my mission as a son of God not to cry about it, but to be strong and push ahead and not back up. Unless I'm told to. From God, not from anyone else. Take wisdom from others. Take action from God. Don't accept wisdom from people that you don't think are godly. If you're choosing to believe in God, then you better choose to believe that he's put people in your world who will have that wisdom for you. Where's my phone? I'm hearing my computer going off, so I'm curious if I'm getting any notifications I need to be aware of. Doesn't look like it. So this is good. All right. I do need to do a little cleanup here. I see that I have covered over some of my highlight on his jacket, so we're going to go in here and fix up this jacket. So, very sharp paper towel. I'm just going to come in here on my highlight and turn the paper towel once I get enough paint on there that I'm just smushing things around. And just push in here, dig that paint off that highlight. There you go. Just dig it back out of the darkness. And hey, I can always apply more highlight on top because this painting is completely dry, except for what I've painted around the background, so it wouldn't be hard to pop that back out again. Okay. I have no idea why my computer's booping. Oh, Instagram posts. Okay. People being creative, I like it. Keep it up. All right, I'm going to put just a little bit more light over here. And you saw how I do that. I just mashed some color that was still on my brush onto this. I'm just going to try and clean up my strokes a little. Okay. And then what I could do, which I think I will do, is I don't like that sharp edge that I have over here right now. So let me grab a pair of my wife's old jeans that I've cut into rags. I have a humongous 10-gallon bucket here full of old clothes. I'm just going to dry off the brush, get all the paint off of here. And now just do a little blending. Just like that. And pull the darkness into the light and the light into the darkness. And we just go back and forth until it starts to feel smooth. And if we need to, we go in with some more colors to blend it out even more. So far so good. Okay. Get some of this here. So I'm basically lifting paint off, but I'm also trying to mix colors on the canvas that are already here. So it's got to be handled carefully, but when you start to feel it grabbing too much, and just lighten up, use less of your bristles, and then maybe at a certain point in time move to a fan brush. Here we go. It's not perfect. I don't want it perfect. I got this whole dark area up here now that I want to fill in, and we're going to come back here and I'm going to put in some more dark in the back side now. So should have a nice balance between the two. Should really help pop it a little bit. So let's grab some of these tones and see what that looks like. I kind of am okay with that. Let's go ahead and do a little bit more liquid. Try to make that stretch a bit longer. And just dab this in here. Easier to go darker, not easier to go lighter. So, well, actually, no, it's the opposite. It's easier to go lighter off dark, not vice versa. So, I get that confused all the time. Because I come from a watercolor background, so not easier to go lighter in watercolor. Apparently it is easier to go lighter in oils, but I do an alla prima style. And for those who don't know what alla prima means, that's basically paint is always wet. And I try to take a painting to completion as much as possible while the paint is still wet. And that's honestly the truth. It's because I like to work quick. So the quicker I can get it done, the better. For me, anyway. So alla prima, the ability to paint while it's still wet, is great. Now the problem is, if you can't figure out your colors pretty quickly, then you're going to be waiting a while for the paint to dry before you can go back in. So glazing techniques are when the paint dries, you go in with a light wash, much like you would do with watercolor. And if you've never worked with watercolor is, believe it or not, a pretty good way to start painting, just because it's affordable-ish, and you can take it pretty far. And can get you some techniques figured out. So I always say try and start. I mean, get your hours in right away. Get both mediums. Learn how to use each one. Each one helps the other. Whatever techniques you learn in one is going to help you in the next one. So it's not a losing scenario to decide that you're going to try multiple mediums at the same time. As long as you're able to kind of just challenge your brain to understand the difference between each one and not confuse yourself. I think it's very easy to be like, oh, I like this, but I like this, but I like this. And you start liking each form for a certain purpose. And then you kind of forget that you can only choose one per painting. Maybe two. Depends on what you're looking for. All right, let's darken up the lens a little bit here so that you can see this little... I'm going to go a little too dark. No, I'm going to go here. There we go. Now you guys will be able to see that canvas just a little bit better. Looking at my other screen here, looks good. Okay. All right. I think that's not looking too miserable. Honestly, it looks kind of like how it would have looked from the beginning. So I don't feel like we're losing out on this. Oh, excuse me. Let's go ahead and set down my cleaning cloth over here. Pick up my palette. And I got some unusual highlight points coming off his shoulders and stuff. So I'm trying to be a little careful, but I do love this. I have a brown dark tone along this side of the canvas, and I got a blue dark tone on this side of the canvas. So I actually really love that juxtaposition that's going on here. So I kind of want to continue that thought, where we go with that dark blue on this side and that dark brown on that side, and we meet in the middle. I think that's kind of fun. In saying that, though, I'm out of my raw umber, so let me grab some more of that. The other thing that really helped me, frankly, is buying a lot of paint over time. When I had the money, thankfully I had a little bit of money back then, I certainly don't now. But when I had the money, every time I went into Michael's, I would buy a tube of paint even if I didn't need it. I thought I needed it, or else I wouldn't have bought it. Or I would question, do I need it? Do I have enough? And if I wasn't certain, I'd just buy it. And the reason why that really helped me out is because I began recognizing that the more paint I had, the more freedom I felt to just paint whatever I wanted and have fun. Because I wasn't wasting paint that I had sitting around for months. It didn't make sense to waste paint. So being able to just be like, you know what? Now that I have so much of this laying around, and I'm obviously not doing anything with some of this, and maybe some of this paint was a bit more experimental in nature, where I was trying a different brand, because cheaper brands fade over time and things can happen with paint. That's why usually people go and buy the really expensive stuff for their, fancy paintings and fancy pieces. So being able to buy a bunch of paints at a bunch of different values and finally being like, you know what, I just want to paint. And I have all this excess paint laying around because it's been collected over 2 or 3 years. Makes it very easy to be like, you know what, I got nothing to lose. Haven't sold anything. And if I have, it's been smaller stuff. So stuff I didn't even expect to sell anyway. So why not just play? And that's what you should do. You should play. You should play anyway. This whole effort of being an artist is to put good into the world with your art. So play. Have fun. And if that means that maybe you have to collect a little bit of supplies first so you feel that you have plenty of excess laying around to do it, play. I know buying things can be fun. Play. And then when you sit in front of your easel, don't stress, play. None of us started painting because it was how we were going to make a killing. And for those who did it that way, I would argue that they probably didn't stick around with this. They probably didn't stick in the passion. They probably gave up. We all started because it was fun. We all started because it was soothing. We all started because there was a release that we had as we painted. And some of us have lost that touch. Some of us have forgotten and have to be reminded how fun it is to be an artist. And I think the problem is once you start integrating money into that process, when you decide that your passion is going to become your financial gain, yes, we should all have that chance to do that once in our lives, but it also means you're about to introduce a lot of stress into the thing that gave you a lot of joy. And you need to see that coming. And that's not easy to do. And that's not easy to self-assess on what's going on. You will find every other thing and blame every other thing before you blame yourself that you took what brought you joy and you made it the thing that brought you the most stress. And that has to be handled carefully. That is the nature of any part of business. That is the nature of any friendship, any love relationship, anything. When you accept a goal, a passion, a plan, you have to accept it for all of its flaws and its joys. When my wife and I were contemplating getting a dog for the first time, my Zozo, my Great Dane, my wife was ready. She was very excited about it. I was not. And I had some pretty serious conversations with her where I said, here's my problem. Wife, when I married you understanding that I was preparing my heart to be broken one day. Not because you're going to divorce me, but because you're going to die. And you dying is going to be the most destructive thing that has ever happened to me. Imagining living life without you will be the worst. I'm frankly surprised I'm not even tearing up at the thought right now. Maybe it's because I'm just kind of focused. But that was a decision I had to make. And so as we were discussing the idea of having dogs, and by the way, I am allergic to dogs. The conversation wasn't about how itchy I would be or how snotty my nose would be or anything like that. It was about how much my heart would break once one of our dogs passed away. And I am reminded of that threat every day because I watch my beautiful Zoe, my Great Dane, grow older every day, and I watch her back handle less and less. And I see the writing in the cards. I see the stars coming together where it's going to be time for me to have to mentally prepare my heart for that moment. When you accept something beautiful, you accept it with the good and the bad. You accept it with the joys and the flaws. When you decide to take painting and make it a career, you accept it when there's no money and when there's tons of money. That's how business works. That's how life works. That's how all this works. Failure is not the complete loss. It is merely a step. But that doesn't mean it's not going to be the hardest step you've had to take in a long time. So, if you choose to make any business that has to do with your passions, the center of your attention, it's going to come with just as much terror as it does excitement. And you have to step through the terrors to get to the fun. Or you have to weigh the possibility that it's time to move on. And time to get back to life. Time to see that your priorities are misaligned with the needs of your home and the needs of the people you love. So I spend an awful lot of time in my headspace, really, really focused on if my goal is a blessing to our family or a curse to our family. And I have to question that about once a week. When the money's good, it's an easier decision to make. When the money is bad, you just got to keep processing and see what you think. I feel pretty good about this. Still seeing a lot of highlight on this arm over here on this side. And as I look at it through the camera, what you guys are seeing, I like it, but I don't like it in its form in IRL, in reality. So I do think I need to fix that a little bit. So I do like the darker, warmer tones that are on that side of the canvas. So I'm going to attempt to try to fix that with those darker, warmer tones. It's a pretty vast change in hue from that. So I kind of want to take that a little darker. I'm also slightly reshaping my sleeve a little bit too. And as I'm waiting for my live stream to catch up with me so I can see how that looks on your camera, I really like the swirling darkness that's over here. And I like the swirling darkness that's kind of over here. But I'm not seeing that carrying down. So let me see what would happen here if we go a bit darker. It's nice just to work with 3 colors, frankly. Okay, I'm just going to swirl in some of this darker tone. Hopefully. Really want the corners of this painting to really kind of dissolve into a darkness and really just bring attention towards D.O.G. And if you're going D.O.G, seriously, I'm pretty sure. Mandy's telling me that the name isn't right, but I thought we named him Douglas Oswald. What did I say? Gooch. Douglas Oswald Gooch. I thought that's what we named him, or Douglas Oscar Gooch, or something very similar to that. There's a beautiful translucency with oil paints that I absolutely love that can only show as you're painting or layering or whatever. And it's just so beautiful. And that's what I love about blending, is it just really brings in this translucency to painting. And what I think makes this so vibrant. Nice. I like it. I like it a lot. What do you guys think? Grab my wife's old jeans. Get my brush cleaned out. The other thing that I always thought I had to do was constantly clean my brush in between colors. I have yet to get out my paint thinner and clean up this brush. Now, thankfully, I've been working in the same tones, but I have to agree with some artists where you just don't need to clean your brushes. You just need to wring them out. And things like jeans and clothing materials do a really good job. So far, this has been pretty sweet. For the record, I'm barely seeing any paint moving around while I'm doing this right now. Just a little bit, not a lot. So if you're going, what are you working on here? Honestly, not much. I'm just seeing little changes of light and shadow here that I'm trying to pull around. Like I'm kind of feeling like I need more light bloom where I've shaped the darkness a bit too well. And so it doesn't feel like a light naturally hitting the background. The colors feel a little bit too shaped. So I'm trying to carefully reshape some of these highlights so it looks more like a bloom and less like I've formed a light source. Because you can literally see this line coming around him here. That's because of the darkness that I just applied, but you have to do it to see the difference. So I'm just going in here and either diluting the color with the other colors, blending things together so that it all kind of begins to become a mash of a single color with small effects in it, or I'm trying to move certain colors from part of the canvas into other parts. And that's not an easy thing to do. It's not, especially working with the kind of technique that I do that keeps everything so viscous. You know, I don't know if viscous is the proper word there, but all right, that pair of jeans is getting a little too full of paint, so and it's getting on my hands here. And I do try to keep my paints off my hands as much as possible. If I know I'm going to be digging in pretty deep, then I'll put on some gloves. But this pair of jeans is ready for the garbage. And because I have a ginormous amount of cloth here, it's very easy to not feel like I'm wasting anything because this is just old materials that I've had laying around for a couple of years. So, well, I think he's done for now. I think I'm happy with what we've done for now. If you have any questions, ask them down below. I deeply appreciate it. And if you enjoy this, make sure to let me know. Because I am someone who needs a lot of support to continue my task. So if you want to see more of this sort of stuff, then please hit that like button. Let me know. And I'll keep it in mind. And until we do another caricature gig, I focus on art, and so setting up the cameras and recording whatever I can is my goal. So right now I'm painting, getting ready for my documentary, and that's going to do it. So I'm happy. That looks really good. So I'm going to run over to the other side of my office and shut down my live stream. So if you did enjoy this, you know what to do. God bless you guys. Keep it crispy. First Tim 412. I'll see you next time right here on Legacy Art Studio. And I'll get my brush cleaned up here. I only used one brush for this entire thing, which feels really good. The colors look really good. He's popping a lot better. So, yeah. There still might be some things. Letting him sit there, dry up, and get a feel for what might need to be changed a bit more will be a wise thing to do. So it doesn't end at the end of the painting. There needs to be some time for it to sit and walk by it, mull it, consider it, and mentally attack yourself for allowing something to happen. So, but there we go. Just a little bit of paint thinner that I buy from Ace. And I've used it in my paintings too. It's usually kind of a milky substance. I'm just going to go ahead and clean up my brush here, and this brush will be ready to go pretty quickly for the next time we need to paint again, and we'll be ready to rock and roll. So that'll do it for now. Big thing that's going to really help this is once I do have it at a point where I feel like it's fairly well completed, there's some things I would maybe consider going in and doing. A bit of Gamvar on here really will make it bring out all these dark points that are just looking so lame right now. So at a certain point in time, we'll put some Gamvar on it, and then we can even paint over top that Gamvar. I'm sure that I'm painting over Gamvar from the past, but that'll give us a better idea of what needs to be filled out more with this, because right now it just feels very muted and plain, and like the side of his jacket here looks all wrong when that should be in darkness. As soon as Gamvar goes on here, it can make all the difference and really like change the overall look of the painting. So letting it dry, getting some Gamvar on there will make a major difference. So, all right, I'm done talking. I'm out of here. See you guys next time. Bye.